Hi, in today's video we're going to cover how to make a bowl cozy on your embroidery machine. This design was created to be used with the AccuQuilt Go die cutting system along with the bowl cozy die, either the small or the large die. But if you don't have an AccuQuilt, no worries, no problem. You can still use this design file and stitch up these bowl cozies really quickly on your embroidery machine. Hi, I'm Dawn, founder, owner, and designer at Creative Appliques. Thank you so much for being here. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new, please click that subscribe button and next to it the bell to be notified when I upload new content. I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to do this super fun project and it stitches up really quickly and very fast on your embroidery machine. So let's go. In today's video, we're going to cover making one of these bowl cozies in the hoop on your embroidery machine. This design works with both the AccuQuilt small bowl cozy and the large bowl cozy. When you purchase this design, you will receive 6 different quilting patterns: a stipple, a ray, a diamond, lines, hearts, and stars. The fabrics and the quilting and the batting are all assembled on your embroidery machine. However, you will need a sewing machine to complete the finishing of the cozy. The small bowl cozy fits in an embroidery hoop that can accommodate at least a 9-inch square. The large bowl cozy fits in an embroidery hoop that can accommodate at least a 10-inch square. This design was created and digitized to be used with the AccuQuilt Go die bowl cozies. However, if you do not have an AccuQuilt Go die or a AccuQuilt die cutting machine, you can still use this pattern by simply cutting squares of fabric and then trimming the fabric at the end when you're cutting the stabilizer. Let's talk about the supplies you're going to need. You're going to need some stabilizer. You can use either a mesh stabilizer or a cutaway. I prefer to use a cutaway because it gives the bowl a good structure and it's going to stay in there after it's done. So a cutaway stabilizer. You are going to need some kind of batting. So you can use either regular batting, 100% cotton, or you can use a product like Wrap and Zap, which is 100% cotton batting. Either one will work. You're going to need to have 2 pieces of fabric, one for the outside and one for the inside, though this is reversible because the bowl cozy can be turned either way. So you're going to want to have 2 pieces of fabric. You're also going to want to have some good applique scissors along with some regular cutting scissors and cotton thread, 100% cotton thread for both the top thread and the bobbin thread. You can either have a neutral color or you can have contrasting color. If you want to see the quilting on the outside of the design, you could do a contrasting color. If you want it to blend in and not be seen and just add texture to the cozy, then you can use a matching thread color. The other thing you're going to need that's really helpful as well is a poker. I love this one from OESD, Point Turner. It's got a thicker ball and a thinner ball to get into really tight spots and corners. You're going to want the embroidery hoop that fits your machine. If you're doing the small bowl cozy, you are going to want to have an embroidery hoop that is at least 9 inches by 9 inches. And if you're doing the larger bowl cozy, you're going to want a hoop that is at least 10 inches by 10 inches. So this design was created to be used with the AccuQuilt die for the bowl cozies. There are two different files sold separately. One is for the small bowl cozy, one is for the large bowl cozy. This demonstration, this video is going to cover how to assemble the bowl cozy, and it's the same regardless of whether you have the small bowl cozy or the large bowl cozy. Note is what bowl cozy you're using, which die you're using is going to depend on what AccuQuilt machine you have. And so then you're also going to need your AccuQuilt cutter machine. So I have the Go Big, and that's what I will be using today in this demonstration. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to prep our fabrics. So I have already pre-cut 2 pieces of fabric here. These fabrics are 100% cotton, and it tells you in the directions what size to cut them. So I have 2 pieces here, and I'm going to send them through my Go Big cutter. So you take the die, put the die with the cutting side up, and center the fabric over it, put the plastic mat on there, and send it through. Now, depending on the machine, the cutter, AccuQuilt cutting machine that you have, you can cut several layers at one time. So that's why I did 2 here, but some of them you can do up to 6 or 10 pieces of fabric. So I have my 2 pieces of fabric here, and now I'm also going to cut my batting the same shape. So I have my 3 pieces cut, my 2 pieces of fabric, and my batting. If you are not using an AccuQuilt die to cut your fabrics, you can simply cut 2 pieces of fabric in squares and a piece of batting in a square and do the same design. So that's covered in the instructions. One note about these fabrics is they are not treated with anything. They don't have any heat and bond on them or anything. They're just plain pieces of fabric ready to be used. So I have hooped my cutaway stabilizer, and the first thing that's going to stitch is the placement stitch. The placement stitching has stitched. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the batting and we're going to place it right inside the lines, centered completely inside the lines of the stitching. You can tape it down, or you can do a little bit of spray adhesive if you would like to keep it in place while the machine is tacking it down. So the next step that's going to happen is we're going to tack down the batting. The batting has been tacked down, and it is tacked down well inside the line of the original stitching. This is so that this is optional. You can trim close to the stitching. I prefer to do this because it takes the bulk of the batting out of the seam. So you can leave it if you wish. You do not have to trim it, but I prefer to trim it. So you can see I trimmed the batting close to the interior stitching. The next step is we're going to place one of the fabrics on top of the batting, covering the stitching inside of all the stitching. The next step that's going to stitch is going to be the quilting. So this is going to be the outside piece of the bowl cozy. So the quilting is going to stitch. So if you wanted to match the thread to match your fabric, you would choose a matching color thread. If you want it to be contrasting and to stand out, then you would use a contrasting color. So the next step to stitch is going to be the tack down for this fabric along with the quilting. So we have tacked down the fabric and sewed the quilting. The next step we're going to do is we're going to take the second piece of fabric and we're going to place it right side down on top of the first piece, covering, again, the stitching lined up with the piece underneath it. So now we are right sides together. This is right side down and this one was right side up. So place the second piece of fabric, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch the final tack down. So we have finished the final tack down of the second piece. So now the stitching in your embroidery machine on the hoop, in the hoop, is finished. So now we're going to remove the design from the hoop, and we're going to trim the stabilizer close to the stitching, including inside the V's here. Next, I'm going to take tiny snips into the curves. I'm going to trim that rest of that stabilizer off of there. I'm going to do this for all of the corners. Next, we're going to take it and we're going to pull it, so we're going to separate the pieces, and we are going to match up the seams, and what we are going to do is we are going to stitch all of the V's closed on our sewing machine. So we want to make sure we have the fabric, so I've matched up the two seams here, and I'm matching up the raw edges of the fabric and the edges of the stabilizer and the stitched seam. So on my sewing machine, I am going to stitch just to the left of this inner line here. No, so not the first line, because that was the placement of where to stick all the fabric. This outer line here, the one furthest to the left, that was the tack down for the batting. This line here is the line that tacked down the fabric, the first fabric, and did the quilting. So we want to stitch just to the left of this line here, so that we are making sure that that's not going to show on the outside of the design. So we're going to do that for all 4 of the V's. So I'm going to do a back stitch or a lock stitch right here at the beginning, and where this black line I drew, that's the line I'm going to stitch just inside or just to the left of this stitching, and I'm going to carry it all the way out to the end here of this V, and I'm going to do another lock stitch or back stitch. So I have stitched all 4 V's together like so. Now you have an opening where there is no stitching right here, and where this is, we are going to turn the cozy inside out or right side out. Now that it's turned right side out, I like to use my point turner and just get in there and really make the edges nice and crisp as I am using my thumb to kind of roll it. And I'm using the point turner in here on the edges to get a nice smooth edge. And once I have done that around all 4 sides, I will give it a nice press. Now the raw edges here where you turned it, you can also press that nice and flat. And you have options for how you close this. You can hand stitch it if you wish. I like to get a little bit of Steam-A-Seam or some iron-on adhesive and place it inside of there and iron that on. And the final step is to go back to your sewing machine and sew a nice finished edge of stitching around the perimeter by about 1/4 of an inch. So there you go. I stitched around the entire perimeter about 1/4 of an inch, and it just gives a nice, clean, crisp edge. The other thing you could do too is if you want, you can stitch an X like this to hold the two pieces together. But there you go. That's how fast and quickly and easily these bowl cozies come together. Another note too is if you wanted to have the quilting on the inside as well, you could simply stitch the first few steps of the first fabric up until stitching the quilting. Then you can remove it from the hoop, start another piece, go all the way through the quilting, and then use this piece that you stitched the quilting first and lay that face down, right sides together on top of the piece that's in the hoop, and then that way you would have both sides quilted. Well, what do you think? I would love to know in the comments what you think about this design and how fun this is. They stitch up so fast, so quickly, and so easily, and they're perfect for gifts. They're wonderful to make in team colors for spirit wear. They're also great for holidays, using holiday fabrics or to match your kitchen theme. Anything like that is great just by changing up the fabric. So many options. It's amazing. I love to use them for both hot and cold items, which is great to protect your hands and also to keep the food protected as well. So if you liked this video, I'd be really grateful if you gave me a thumbs up. That way I know you're enjoying my content. I love creating content, so please share this with all your sewing and embroidery buddies. Please come join us in the Creative Applique Embroidery Facebook group. We would love to have you there and share all your projects and stitching that you're doing. And also, you can find me on social media on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok as Creative Appliques. If you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button. And until I see you next time, make your life creative.